What's up, geeks and gamers? It's Jeremy coming to you with another video, and today, leading into Infinity War, my most anticipated film of the year, I'm going to give you a countdown of my least two favorite MCU films. And this is going to be a long list, so I'm going to try to fly through the bottom portion so I can talk about my favorite films near the top. Obviously, I have my little babies with me. I have Puppy Face with me, and Leia is here. It's storming, so they both have to sit with me right now because they're very scared of the thunder, and it's pretty rough outside. Now, before we get started, I'm not going to place Black Panther on my list because I have not seen Black Panther a second time, and I generally like to see movies a second time before I place them, especially when they're going to be placed this high, because Black Panther will definitely be in my top 10, and it might be in my top 5, but before I can commit to that, I want to see it again, so I'm going to leave it off the list. But if you want to go check out my review, it's on this channel, and I thoroughly enjoyed this movie, and it's a great entry into the MCU. So, let's jump into this list because it's going to be a long list. Coming in at number 17, Thor: The Dark World. Thor: The Dark World is a bad movie. Point blank, it's just a bad movie. It's nothing about this movie works for me. The Loki Thor dynamic it's stupid. Nothing works, and I don't really want to spend much time on it. It's my least favorite MCU movie by far, and that's it. Now, this next movie that comes in at number 16, this is one that might get some pushback, and that's fine. I wanted to like this movie. I'm surprised I didn't like this movie because the response to this movie is very good. It has a great Rotten Tomatoes score from the critics and the fans. It did great at the box office, but I didn't like it, and that's Doctor Strange. Now, I'm a big fan of Benedict Cumberbatch. I was looking forward to this movie. I wanted to like it, and there are some cool elements to this movie, but when you put it all together, it just does not work for me at all. And I'm very disappointed in that because I was really looking forward to this movie, but that's where we are. Number 15, Iron Man 2. Again, another movie I was highly anticipating. I clearly love Robert Downey Jr. in this role because how can you not? But this movie felt really disjointed because it felt like the studio was forcing Jon Favreau to do too much, but also hold back enough for the Avengers. And because of that, it was just kind of all over the place, and not much of it worked. All right, the next film is number 14, Iron Man 3, directed by Shane Black. Now, a lot of Shane Black fans apparently like this movie a lot. And it clearly did amazing. It did 1.2, 1.3 at the box office. Very successful film, but it was very divisive. And maybe it's a good Shane Black movie, but it's not a good MCU movie, in my opinion. And for that reason, I did not like it at all. Now, the next movie on our list is the number 13 movie. This is going to be the last movie that I really don't like in the MCU. Everything else we start talking about, I either like or love. So, Spider-Man Homecoming. Now, the first time I saw Spider-Man Homecoming, I liked it. I liked it a lot. But the more I thought about the movie, the more I just really found it to be incredibly safe and boring. It's not a bad movie. It's just boring. And this is one of the few, if not the only, films in the MCU that I started getting social justice warrior nonsense. And it didn't ruin the movie, but you could see that they were really pushing the forced diversity in this film. And it was, again, it's not a bad movie. And Tom Holland is fantastic as Peter Parker and Spider-Man. And I enjoyed Michael Keaton in the villain role, but just overall, the film just felt way too safe, and it just did not work for me overall. Okay, next on the list is Thor, the very first Thor film, and this movie really worked for me. This is where Chris Hemsworth kind of showed us that he came into his own and took this role as Thor and made it his own, and everything worked in the movie. Natalie Portman and Chris Hemsworth relationship worked. How it felt when he was on Earth, it all worked. Very good movie, very enjoyable, liked it a lot. Next on our list, number 11, is Thor Ragnarok. Now, Thor Ragnarok is an interesting movie, and I think it was necessary for the Thor franchise because Thor: The Dark World was so bad. So very bad. Thor Ragnarok, on multiple viewings, didn't hold up for me as well, but I still liked it. I liked the humor aspect. I liked what they were trying to do. They changed it up, but it still felt like a Marvel movie in the MCU for me. And overall, great job with this movie. Changing it up. It was a risky movie. And that's not something you get a lot in the MCU, so I appreciated it from that perspective. Next on our list is number 10, The Avengers: Age of Ultron. A lot of people this is another divisive film. I really enjoyed Age of Ultron. I really don't understand what people were so upset about with this movie. And everything, for the most part, not everything. Ultron wasn't a great villain, but I really enjoyed the dynamic between the team. Overall, I'm a fan of this movie, so I liked it. Number 9, The Incredible Hulk. Okay, so this is an interesting one because obviously we no longer have Ed Norton as the Incredible Hulk anymore. And Ruffalo is a fine replacement, but Edward Norton is one of my favorite actors, and I thought he completely owned this role with this film. I really enjoyed the fight with the Abomination. The CG was great. Ed Norton was great. Everything worked for me in this movie. I was sad to see Edward Norton go. I understand Edward Norton is a very difficult actor for other directors and actors to work with, and so I'm sure that played a huge part into it. I think Ed Norton made a massive career mistake by being a douchebag, and it sucks. Again, Ruffalo's fine, but Edward Norton would have been much better, and I really enjoyed this movie. Okay, number 8, The Avengers. Now, this movie is generally considered the greatest Marvel Cinematic Universe film, period, and I'm not going to argue with that. The first viewing of The Avengers for me is one of the great experiences I've had in a movie theater. You cannot replace that moment of seeing all of this come together and seeing all of these heroes on screen for the first time. What an amazing moment. I sat through the Marvel Marathon, so I saw all of the Marvel movies leading into that film, and even as tired and worn out as I was was still in awe of what I was witnessing on screen. Multiple viewings of The Avengers, it really does not hold up as well as I would like. It's still a great movie, it's still very fun, and it's still incredible to see these characters on screen all together, but it just doesn't have the depth that I wish it would, but still, you cannot argue with The Avengers. Incredible film. All right, number 7, the one that started it all, Iron Man from 2008, the same year The Dark Knight came out, if I'm not mistaken. And yeah, this is it right here. This is the film. This is one of the most important comic book films of all time because of the importance of what it accomplished. And Robert Downey Jr., he changed the superhero genre with his portrayal of Tony Stark. And this movie is so well made. It's so good. And if this is at the top of your list, I would not argue with you. Time has just seen other good films take its place, but I really, really love the first Iron Man movie. Jon Favreau did such a fantastic job, and yeah, I thoroughly enjoy it. And I'm one of the few that still likes Terrence Howard more as Rhodey. I mean, that's just me, but apparently everybody else likes Cheadle. I like Terrence Howard. So anyway, hustle and flow, man. He's my Brody. Hashtag my Brody. Number 6, a very surprising entry into the MCU, and that is Ant-Man. Paul Rudd. Love Paul Rudd. I love Evangeline Lilly. I love this movie so much. It reminded me of Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. Paul Rudd did such a good job. The family dynamic in this movie had a lot of emotion, a lot more emotion than a lot of Marvel movies do. And this movie is so, so well made. I really love it, and I think it's probably the most underrated MCU movie to date, in my opinion. So Ant-Man, I can't wait for Ant-Man and the Wasp. I'm so excited. So great job to everyone involved, especially with the production problems that they were facing with Edgar Wright had to step away. We didn't know what was going to happen, and I believe they produced a great film in the middle of what could have been turmoil. Next on our list, Captain America: The First Avenger. This movie is so effing good. When I talk about underrated MCU films, I mentioned Ant-Man. This is another one right here. This movie is overlooked all the time. This has a Batman Begins feel to it. Chris Evans coming into it, the CG, they did such an amazing job with making him look like a little puny twerp for the first part of the movie, and then eventually becomes, you know, Steve Rogers that we all know. Everything about it, the tone, the era, I loved this movie so much. I cannot speak highly enough about it. Red Skull was so good. He was such a good villain. The emotion, everything in this movie worked. It had such a Rocketeer feel. I can't praise this movie enough, and I will not praise it enough. At some point, like, there's some times where I want to put this over The Winter Soldier. It's that good. It's so good. I love it. Anyway, let's move on. Number 4, the movie I just mentioned, Captain America, The Winter Soldier. So this movie is generally, this is one of the movies that people put at the top of their list, and I'm not going to argue with you at all. For me, almost everything in this movie is near perfect, except I guess the final 15-20 minutes just don't land for me as good as I want, and that's what holds it back from being true all-time greatness. But Robert Redford is so good. The action is unbelievable in this movie. Probably the best action of any MCU movie. The fight scenes are incredible, and Chris Evans is literally Captain America. So, amazing job on this movie. So if this is at the top of your list, I'm not going to argue with you. I just have it number 4 on mine. Next on our list, number 3, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Now, this is a movie that's going to split people. This is a movie that seems to be a little divisive, and I understand that. For me, it worked. I love the Guardians of the Galaxy. I genuinely have real emotion when I watch this movie. Spoilers for a lot of superhero movies, what I'm about to say right now, but for me, a big Superman fan, the death of Yondu has more of an emotional impact on me than the death of Superman in Batman v Superman. That speaks volumes to how bad Batman v Superman is and how good Guardians of the Galaxy 2 is. But everything works. I loved Kurt Russell in this movie. The chemistry between the Guardians is phenomenal. And Chris Pratt, I mean, I could just go on and on about the obvious things, but for me, Guardians of the Galaxy was a worthy successor to the great Guardians of the Galaxy that we got from James Gunn. So, moving on, number 2. What is it? Is it going to be Guardians of the Galaxy or is it going to be Civil War? Because those are only 2 movies left. Number 2 is Civil War. I mean, I get, like, there seems to be a small resistance against this film, and I don't really understand it. I really don't. This movie was so effing good. I'm not really sure what the big resistance is on this. I try to understand when people have problems with movies, but with Civil War, I don't really understand it. Everything was so well made in this movie. The dynamic between Tony and Steve Rogers, the turmoil that the Avengers were feeling, the emotion involved, the fighting, it all worked. And I need you to talk to me in the comments if you have problems with this movie. I need to know what they are, because I know that there is a small resistance out there for Civil War. My only critique about Civil War is my same critique with almost all Marvel movies, and that is the jokes during fight scenes. Like, it drives me freaking crazy. But that doesn't fundamentally hurt the film for me. It just hurts certain points in the film for me. The fight scenes are fantastic. The introduction of Spiderman is amazing. Black Panther. There's so many great things about this movie, and I just don't know why people get upset about it. But talk to me in the comments. Let me know. Okay, number 1. You all know what it is. So, Guardians of the Galaxy. I am such a fan of Guardians of the Galaxy. This movie, I was worried about this movie going into it. I was worried that it was going to be really cheesy, and I was worried that it was going to come off, not that this is a bad thing, so let me preface what I'm going to say. As a matter of fact, I was having a conversation with my buddy Star Wars Theory over at the Star Wars Theory channel, and we were talking, and we mentioned Galaxy Quest, and I told him if anybody doesn't like Galaxy Quest, I don't think I can trust them, period, in life. Galaxy Quest it's impossible to not like Galaxy Quest. But so when I say this, I don't mean this in a disrespectful way to Galaxy Quest, but I felt that Guardians of the Galaxy was going to go in a Galaxy Quest way. and it didn't. It took itself seriously enough, but the heart involved and the comedy, it blends it all together. The We Are Groot moment. Chris Pratt is a legitimate megastar. The chemistry between the cast. I thought Dave Bautista, being a wrestling fan that I am, I thought Bautista was going to be horrible in this movie, and he was truly phenomenal in this movie. Bradley Cooper as Rocket Raccoon. It just all works for me. This is a modern day Star Wars film for me. There are no real flaws in this movie whatsoever. No, I don't put Guardians at the top of my all-time great comic book films because those spots are reserved for the Dark Knight trilogy. But this is the greatest Marvel film in my opinion. So, this is ran for 15 minutes. I tried to make it shorter, but let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I would love to hear your thoughts. Infinity War is almost here. Are you excited? Give me your least to best Marvel films of all time. You guys have a great day, and we will talk to you later.